Are you held back by the stories you can't seem to leave behind? Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unbox the Podcast, the power of your story. I'm Sahar Palmer, and today we're diving into the elusive quest for closure. This episode is about the stories that we tell ourselves, believing that understanding our past is essential for moving forward. How true is that? But what if these stories are not what hold us back? Join me in this episode, and I hope that it will help you redefine what closure means to you. Think about the last time you felt stuck because you believed you needed closure. Maybe it was after a relationship, or a marriage that has ended, or a job that was lost, or a career change, or a sudden departure of loved ones. The pain and the feeling of being unfulfilled that we are left with after the event is truly an invitation to change, more so, to realign with our life purpose and what will bring us joy. Instead, most of us might spend a long time grieving the loss or the change, resisting to accept it. We often tell ourselves that understanding why things have happened can help us move forward, not realizing that this belief is what is trapping us in the past. And I will explain to you how in today's episode. For example, a woman whom I have helped was deeply entangled in an affair with a married man. He claimed that his marriage was ending and he was separated, and for months they carried on getting to know each other. When suddenly he decided to return to his wife, and my client was left believing that a final conversation, an explanation, would help her heal and move forward. No matter what I said, she kept saying, "But if only I could have closure." Months had passed since we spoke, and she remained stuck in that loop, waiting for closure that never came. And it was her belief that this was so necessary, so important, that closure had actually kept her from opening up to new possibilities in her life, including a new relationship. Our brains are made that way. They need to make sense of experiences that we go through in order to store the information in the right place. Once that information is stored in the right place, it acts like a program, if you like, a step-by-step program that helps you to make or reach a new decision whenever you're faced with a similar situation. However, with applying your awareness, you can choose to let go of understanding and open up to new experiences that can actually bring that understanding, but only in hindsight. Why? Because your program, your step-by-step program, isn't finished yet. You may need new experiences, new insights that can only come from new experiences. And once that information is compiled by your brain will sort it out automatically, and then you'll be able to make sense of this experience that so-called didn't work out. It is not the other person that can give you the healing closure, or another party that need to explain to you why they had to let you go from your job. Or I don't know who would explain a sudden career change or a country move or whatever sudden changes that we go through, because they are part of life. So you can't have closure because other experiences are needed in order for your brain to file the one in question in the right place. What the brain does when you go to sleep, it does a process that's called chunking. It sorts all your experiences and all the information that you gain through your 5 senses into files, if you like. And it sorts out these files according to relevant categories or chunks. And then it purges whatever is not relevant. Yes, we are made that way. So if you can't make sense of something that you're going through right now, let go of the incessant need to understand And what will happen is you will move forward in life, and then the understanding will come later simply because you needed to develop other perspective that only other experiences can bring. It's sort of like buy now, pay later. I've lived through this myself after my husband passed away. I moved with my mom into a house that became a sanctuary for both of us. It had a beautiful garden, which both my late husband and my mom really treasured, and I worked very hard to grow that garden so that it can be a place that mom and I can enjoy after my husband had left us. It also helped keep me sane during lockdown to have that open space and to be able to sit in the garden. So you can see how attached I was, because I developed that belief that if I'm in this house, then I'll be fine and I can do what I need to do. But when circumstances forced me to move because of the skyrocketing rents in Dubai, I discovered something incredible. Only after moving to my new small 2-bedroom flat did I realize how aligned I was with the new phase of my life. This move, though initially was truly unwanted, life pushed me into alignment, if you like. It forced me into making that change that was really pertinent now. And it kind of made me feel as though these are the laws of the universe, and whatever you're living, however you're living, whatever you're doing, if it is not in alignment with what is truly yours to live, to be, to do, then kind of it pushes you. Circumstances push us to take that step in order to come into alignment. Over the years, I've truly developed the belief that it is not personal. Whatever forced changes we face are really not personal. In fact, they may happen to our advantage because we don't know the way out, and life pushes you because energy is always flowing, if you like. Life is always growing, always evolving. You can't stop that. So if we're suffering or struggling for whatever reason, we may not understand it in the present, but actually what is happening is to allow us to focus on our life, to bring out our potential, and pushes us back into what I call alignment. The decision was tough, but moving has helped me realize that I had in the past attached too much of my healing to that physical space. In the same way that my client had attached her emotional healing to that person, as though it can only come from them. I may also add that moving to this flat really entailed giving away, decluttering, letting go of a lot of things and possessions and memories and stories and photographs and diaries and whatnot from the past. This was really healing. I don't know why I put up with it for 5 to 7 years, and suddenly it became the obvious things to do. And because I had done it, I'm still in the process, there's a little bit left for me to do. And because I've done it, you feel this like an incredible weight has lifted off your chest, and now you can think clearly and see clearly.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn ads.com today.
I mention these stories because they tie back to the Unbox methodology. I call myself a holistic life mentor, meaning you can't deal with one aspect of the person, for example, the emotional aspect, without dealing with their belief system, without dealing with how their body functions, without holding them accountable to the decisions that they made, which the latter a lot of people fear because it means that we're responsible for our misery. But I find it self-empowering. If I made that, then I can undo it. When we are out of alignment, life has a way of correcting our course, if you like, often through changes that at first seem unnecessary or unwanted. It is our mindset that governs how we file these experiences in our minds. Basically, human beings, because of the development of the neocortex, we are the only mammals that can give meaning to life. Animals cannot do that. So you file things according to the meaning, to the context that you give them, and this is where belief system and emotional blueprint come into play. It is only in hindsight that we see how these changes were necessary, in fact, beneficial. I spoke about in a previous podcast how my mom's departure and my late husband's departure kind of forced me to look and think about my own life and what is it that I'm going to do. And it was actually the birth of my brand and the work that I do. It brought it all under one umbrella, and before I didn't see it that way. I saw it in a disjointed way. I do this, I do that, but they're not related, which was not actually true. Regarding my client and how she was suddenly ghosted when her partner decided to go back to his wife, she waited for some closure. She waited for some final explanation, believing that she could heal and move on. Yet this closure never came, well, at least until now. What she eventually learned was that closure doesn't come from external sources. It is something that we must create from within us. It is about letting go of the need for answers and finding peace in the present, despite the shadows of the past. It is when you are in harmony and relaxed that your brain functions well. Otherwise, when you're obsessing on a thought, you're deviating from your life path, if you like, and also your brain doesn't function as well. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, they were great Stoic philosophers. When we speak about new ideas, for example, you will find that they're really rooted in the past, in these philosophers. They taught us that while we cannot control the actions of others, we can always control our responses. They remind us of how our suffering often stems not from what has happened, but from how tightly we cling to our expectations of how life should be and should unfold and how other people should behave. Which really reminded me of something I often tell my clients. You cannot change how other people drive, but you're responsible for getting yourself safely to the next destination. Same thing in life. Focus on your path, on your road, on the path that you need to follow to get to where you want to go. By releasing expectations that can only hold us back, we find our way back. So when you modulate your expectations, when you give the experience a different meaning, okay, I'll understand later. Maybe I need new experiences so I can make sense of what I've just passed through. By remaining slightly more flexible and open, you begin to draw the experiences and the information that you need in order to put the current experience into perspective. Have you ever considered that letting go of the need for closure could actually set you free? So what does it mean for you to let go of the need for closure? How can we trust in our ability to find peace during uncertain times? These are not easy questions, but they are freeing and empowering us, allowing us to take control of the narrative, of taking control of the stories that we weave unconsciously. For example, my client, instead of seeing the experience as failure, instead of seeing herself as a victim who had no say in what has happened, she can begin to take her power back and say, okay, I'll understand later. Maybe another experience will help me put this one into perspective, for example. What if finding peace is not from the past, but in the possibilities of opening up in the present and opening up to the future? In other words, keeping your eyes on the road ahead. Imagine how liberating that could be, just to allow life to unfold without the need to arrive at really neat conclusions. All these stories teach us a powerful lesson. Closure isn't always about getting answers from others. It's really and honestly more about giving ourselves the permission to move forward, to stay on the road, on our path, on our journey. It is about deciding that our understanding may not come from external validations, but from an internal acceptance that this is life, this is what happens in life, this is how it is. I will understand as I keep driving. Kind of, if you keep driving and you look in your rear mirror, then you make sense of how far you have come. As we wrap up today's episode, I encourage you to reflect on the stories that you've been telling yourself about needing closure. Are they honestly helping you grow, or are they holding you back? Could you find peace in a new beginning by releasing these stories and embracing life as it comes? I've just remembered an example from when I was living in London. I moved into a new flat and clients were coming and going, and we had a porter, and the porter was female. And suddenly, Victoria stopped me and she said, "Sahar, may I ask you something?" I said, "Yes, of course." And she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Why do you want to know?" And she said, "Well, I see a lot of men and women, they come in really sad and depressed and they leave feeling great with a big smile on their face." And I said, "Why, Victoria? Is there something that is bothering you in your life?" What I do is I change their perspective. And she said, "Yes." She said, "Today is my 60th birthday and I feel really miserable because when I was young, I had just got married and my sister came to visit and my sister fell in love with my husband and they ran off together and they got married." And I said, "Did you love your husband?" She says, "Oh God, no. It was like an arranged thing and she dreaded being married to him." And she said, "I used to pray to God night and day that somehow this marriage will be dissolved." And I said, "Well, there you are. This is what God did. How else would he resolve it? By sending your sister." I said, "Are they happy?" She said, "Very happy." I said, "Well, there you are. That's your answer." And she looked at me and she said, "Really? I have nothing to feel guilty about?" I said, "No." And she said, "Do you think I will meet someone?" I said, "Absolutely, if you let go of feeling victimized, of feeling that life has been unjust towards you." I said, in fact, in her belief system, her God had listened to her. Her face immediately lit up, and the poor woman really enjoyed her birthday. And a few weeks or months later, she mentioned that she was going on a holiday with a man that she started seeing. So this is the change of perspective that can only come in hindsight, after you let go of the story, of the closure that you need, of the story that you keep telling yourself. Can open us to new beginnings, open us to new perspective filled with possibilities and peace. So I ask you today, what new beginnings could be waiting for you if you release the need for closure? I'd love to hear your stories. Please keep your comments coming. And if you want to share your feedback on social media, please use hashtags Unbox with Sahar or Unbox the Podcast. Until next time, remember to subscribe and keep unboxing your potential.